It's the J Bass Today Show. Get ready for a good time, a good time. It's the J Bass Today Show. Get ready to ride.
Welcome to the J Bass Today Show. Thank you so much for riding with me, and I hope you enjoy the show. Season's greetings. God bless you to each of you. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode of the J Bass Today Show. I am looking forward to our special guest and being able to share with her. And so I like to read today's Our Daily Bread from July 11th, 2017. Giving in to Jesus. They call it the devil's footprint. It's a foot-shaped impression in the granite on a hill beside a church in Ipswich, Massachusetts. According to local legend, the footprint happened one fall day in 1740 when the evangelist George Whitefield preached so powerfully that the devil leaped from the church steeple, landing on the rock on his way out of town. Though it's only a legend, the story calls to mind an encouraging truth from God's word. James 4:7 reminds us, submit yourselves then to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. God has given us the strength we need to stand against our adversary and the temptations in our lives. The Bible tells us that sin shall no longer be your master, Romans chapter 6:14, because of God's loving grace to us through Jesus Christ. As we run to Jesus when temptation comes, he enables us to stand in his strength. Nothing we face in this life can overcome him because he has overcome the world. John chapter 16, verse 33. As we submit ourselves to our Savior, yielding our wills to him in the moment and walking in obedience to God's word, he is helping us. When we give in to him instead of giving in to temptation, he is able to fight our battles. In him, we can overcome. Lord Jesus, I give my will to you today. Help me to stay close to you in every moment and to love you by obeying you. The prayer of the feeblest saint is a terror to Satan. Oswald Chambers. Today's reading came from James chapter 4, verses 6 through 10. Key verse being verse 11. In the same way, count yourselves dead to sin, but alive to God in Christ Jesus. Our guest today has written a book entitled Intentionally Healing. And so as I read this, or read the title and some of the passage, it brought to mind the ability to intentionally heal. And so thank you so much for joining us today. Let's talk to Dr. Jennifer Gilbert.
It's the J Bass Today Show. Get ready to ride.
All right, Caesar's greetings. I am here with my special guest, Dr. Jennifer Gilbert. Dr. Gilbert, how are you this morning?
I am amazing. How are you?
I am wonderful, and I'm even better because we are finally having a chance to sit down together on the J Bass Today Show. Okay,
Okay.
right. And so it is an honor to have you on and to be able to share your new book,
Yes, sir.
Intentionally Healing. Let me
Yes.
read this. Intentionally healing
hmm
in purpose,
hmm
on purpose,
hmm
for purpose. Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness. Okay,
Yes.
I'm looking forward to talking about this book in which you say it's about taking unforgiveness by the horns and making up in your mind daily. Not only will you forgive, but you will heal from the inside out. That this is a book of healing with a workbook enclosed within, and the reader can interact with and take the journey as they read. Okay,
Yes.
so my first thought when I heard this was, what inspired this particular book?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's been years we've been working
Talk
together.
about this, yes.
And I thank God for that. I thank God for you and I thank God for your ministry and all of the great things that you're doing. And what inspired this book was just I'm at a place in my life now that my kids are grown, not married. It's just me, myself, and I. And I've never had an encounter with me, myself, and I
Mm, mhm.
until
That's
God
good.
brought me to a place where I know nobody and nobody knows me. And I had to confront this person every morning. I
Hmm.
had to confront the hurts. I had to confront the pains. I had to confront the insecurities, my past, my present, before I could even think about my future.
Hmm.
And it was through that that God birthed this book, and it has been an amazing journey.
Okay. Okay. And it comes with a workbook so that the reader can take the journey within themselves. Okay.
Absolutely.
So as I looked at that, and this is your 40th book, I believe I read.
Yes.
Okay. You are only getting ready to turn 59. Am I correct?
Oh, 49.
Okay. Golly.
with
Pray
with
for me and my
59
numbers,
years of
okay?
experience.
Okay, okay, okay. Let's work it like that. Okay, Lord, help my mind. Jesus, I tell you, I love doing this and I love making mistakes on here too, because then I get to clear it up. Okay.
Yeah,
So it's
right.
49
Hmm.
and 40 books
Hmm.
in 49 years.
Yes.
That is truly a testament of your work ethic, your I want to say your research ability, your life experience.
Hmm.
And for this to be your 40th book
Yeah.
in such a lifespan, uh, I just kind of want to hear more about your journey to this place. You just shared that what part of what led you to writing this book is the
Hmm.
fact that your children are no longer at home. It's just you.
Hmm.
The first thought when you said that was like, well, golly, you done wrote 39 books while they were there, and if it's
Right.
just you now, what
Right.
more can we expect from Dr. Gilbert? But before we get to what more can we expect, because I know you are moving and shaking just like you've been
Yes.
sharing and that you are doing some amazing things. I want to go back and rewind to that journey because
Okay.
the fact I believe you've shared with me that you have two doctorates. Am I right?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Okay. I'm thinking about the educational journey.
Hmm.
I'm thinking about your children. I'm
Hmm.
thinking about the companies that you own and provide leadership for. I'm also thinking about 40 books.
Yeah.
This has had to be an epic journey.
Yes.
I would not say that in fact, I would say I'm sure that it has
Hmm.
not been easy.
Yeah.
Can you just kind of
Yes, it
walk
has.
us through this journey? Because I know a lot of the things that I've just mentioned also played a part in the need for intentional healing.
Yes. One of the things that God dealt with me, first of all, like you said, life experience is the greatest teacher.
Yes.
I have 7 degrees. I have 2 associates, 2 bachelors, one master's, and 2 doctorates. And I didn't even really start to live my life, if you would, until I was 30. I didn't write my first book until 2010, and we're now in 24, right? And so in 14 years, I've written over 40 books. And so I've been preaching. I was called to preach at 7, started preaching when I was 9. Um, and then, like I don't want to liken myself to Christ, but he came, he was born with a purpose, right?
Hmm.
And he prepared for that purpose for
Hmm.
those first 12 years. Then he disappeared.
Hmm.
And then he came back at the age of what? 30s, in his 30s, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then he was able to perfect and to live out his ministry.
Right.
And so with that being said, I say that God called me to preach at 7. I started preaching at 9. And in my ministerial pursuits, I disappeared, if you would. And I came back at the age of 15 when I had my first child.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then my second child at 18, and got married the first time at 18. And so 18 for me is really when my life began. So now
Okay.
we're looking at 31 years, right? Because we're in 24. And it wasn't easy because for so long I had to reconcile what happened in those first 15 or years. What
Right.
what happened? So
Right.
much happened that it was packed and it was compounded and it was layered because I wasn't even intelligent enough to try to unpack it or articulate what it was I was going through. I just had to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then, having my children and, the blessings, if you would, that come with that.
Yeah.
Especially because I have one child who is a talented and gifted kid, and then I have another child who has special needs. And
Okay.
it's like trying to navigate that at the age of 18 when my mom had just passed away. So I had no parent, no guidance, no anything. It was just literally thrown into the fire of life. And
Oh wait.
through that, I was able to really refine my relationship with the Lord.
Okay.
Now watch, I said refine, not define, because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to define it,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So I had to just go in and I had to collect all of this experience and then ask questions later. So I
Mm-hmm.
took these
Yeah.
crash courses called life.
Oh
And
wait.
then after my kids were grown, after I had done the work,
Mm-hmm.
then it was okay, God, now sit down and make it all make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Make
Right.
it make sense to me. How did I do this and not lose my mind? How did I, lose my father when I was so young, never even remember him being in the household. And then my mother, literally not really, we didn't have that mother-daughter relationship, I'll say, right? And then she leaves me at such a pivotal age. She left me my high school year. My final senior year of high school is when she passed, 3 months before I was to walk. Now, mind you, she told me that I never would because I had kids so early and you're ruining your life. I was back in those days when all that was happening.
Right.
And the church had turned their back on me
Wow.
because
Wow.
you just a fast little old girl. And it's not till now, fast forwarding and reversing was how I got through this book. Like I had to go back to say, okay, that hurt me. Why did that hurt me? What did that do for me? How can I use it now? Right? For so long, Jay, people have went through life eating sorrow sandwiches and playing the victim and having the woe is me syndrome. And I just
Mm-hmm.
got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I didn't even want to tell my story anymore because that was my story.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're in a new chapter. Now we're in a new
Oh, okay.
beginning.
All
Now
right.
we're in a new place to where
Yes.
it's like, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, I did that too. Yeah, oh, I was fast. Yeah, yeah, I did that. But let me tell you, the way that I used to
Yes.
hunger for sex in my sex addiction, now I hunger for God in my God addiction. The
Okay.
way
Come on
that
now.
I had to push and press through to raise my children, now I can push and press through to raise myself.
Okay.
You
Okay.
see,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
so the Bible says it says all things work together for the good. But
Yeah.
sometimes we never take the time to sit back and figure out what is the good. We don't even look for it. We
Mm-hmm.
just roll with the punches. And oh,
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that because I don't. And oh, I
Mm-hmm.
can't do that because ain't nobody showed me how. Nobody taught me. Nobody. And I just got tired because it becomes a toxic mentality.
Yes. Yes.
And what
Yes.
happens is anything that's toxic, if you watch this, anything that's toxic always starts from the inside and then begin to manifest outside. If you
Yeah.
get a cold, they don't see it from the outside in, but you
That's
start to
right.
feel the
Starts on
body
the
aches. You
outside.
started to feel the headache and all.
Yeah.
And then you're like, ooh, I don't feel good. I don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens? It
Mm-hmm.
manifests. Now I'm coughing. Now I
Right.
gotta all of these things. And so if we can take our mindset and do the same thing And
Yeah.
that's why I said I had to become intentional. I got tired of healing on accident.
Okay.
Healing on somebody said I'm sorry. Okay, I feel better because you said I'm sorry. But on the inside,
Right.
anytime anybody do something that remotely looks like what you did,
Right. I'm
I'm
reminded.
cool on that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
And Paul said it best. He said, I'm forgetting those things which are behind, and I'm pressing where? Toward the mark. For what? For the prize where? Of the high calling. That's
Mhm.
not even in me. It's in Christ Jesus. And
That's right.
once we do that, then we're able to intentionally heal on
Okay.
purpose. And watch this. I'm healing on purpose because I made up in my mind I want to do it. I'm healing in purpose
Yes.
because I'm still
Yes.
executing my faith. And I know that on the other side of this, I'm going to be healing for my purpose.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Gilbert, I mean, you have really set this broadcast off already. And I could tell this could possibly go into a two-part because you have laid a lot on me to and my mind wheels turn
Yeah.
fast. And
Right.
you were laying it out so fast, so they in high rotation right now. The first thing that came to mind as you were just talking about things, these are things I'm listening to that were things now that you're in this season that were necessary to heal from. And just hearing and especially imagining being in the church, a 7-year-old child who announces their call and starts to preach at 9, but in 6 years finds herself pregnant in a community and a family that does not accept the fact that she has found herself in this predicament, and now they're calling you what you just said, fast. You know, some of us understand. I mean, of course, I'm a man, so I can't
Right.
have a baby or whatever, or
Right.
show that I was fast too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you have the evidence, and that's one of the things that happens to young girls. And I'm hearing that, and I can feel why, in a later season of your life, that's something that you would need healing from. But to be honest with you, the thing that's really, I guess, it's admirable to me. I'm like, salute to this girl, golly, because
Praise God.
you have a child at 15.
Mhm.
You have another child at 18, and your mom passes.
Mhm.
And you do something that not even she believed that you could do, which is to graduate.
Mhm.
And then not only do you graduate, but you go on to attain 7 degrees. I'm representing my current alma mater. And I'm working on my first associates, and I'm thinking
Yeah.
about what I'm going through just to do the first associates. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have attained 7 degrees. And I'm just trying to, first and foremost, kudos to you, sister. Shout out to you, because I just can't even begin to imagine that journey. Both parents gone. You're raising 2 children. This is 2 things already, not on top of whatever else I'm sure that you dealt with in that
Right.
time frame. But 2 parents gone, 2 children, and you're striving to better yourself. You're going out, you're raising children and getting an education simultaneously while also having to deal with life.
Right.
I just, I guess the first thing, this show is, my motto here is, I am encouraged to encourage. And what I definitely hear in you sharing about the intentional healing is that somehow you have been encouraged. You have been encouraged to heal on purpose, in purpose, for purpose. And in that, what is it that you would say, especially to a young mother who has been called fast, who may have had children young, that has been doubted, because that was doubt that was placed on you that
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to do this. And yet you are sitting here as a living witness and testimony that it can be done. And it can be done in such a way that sets you high above any other experience that I've heard in such a long time. I mean, I don't know if I've ever heard an experience like this. Just
Yeah.
thinking about how many things were set against you, and yet
Yes.
you have. I like to say that I have an overcomer and a survivor's testimony, but this is the epitome of
Oh my God.
epitome of surviving. And so
Mhm.
what would you say to someone, it doesn't even have to be a mother, but anyone who is dealing with situations where people are doubting them, where their circumstances appear to be so dire that they can't overcome?
Yeah. I think if I had to give a word of encouragement, it's one that God gave me. And it was the fact that every day that you wake up is intentional. God didn't accidentally, oh, man, I ain't mean to wake you up this morning. But I mean, since I did, go ahead and live. No, you were intentionally awakened by God for a purpose. And though you may not see the purpose now, it's all gonna work for your good. And I know that, when I was a little girl, people would tell me that, when I was being abused and I was being raped and I was being molested and all of these things. And there was one lady in the church when I was a little girl, this was before my fast days. She would always tell me, oh, you so pretty. I love to hear you sing. Oh my God, I love to hear you when, I love to see you when you come to children's rehearsal, right? Because I was in a children's choir. And I never forgot her. Her name was Bonnie Davis. I don't know where she is. If I met her, I probably would fall out. But it pushed me to be like her. And the thing that she did, she wasn't educated, but she knew how to sing and she knew how to play. And watch this, she knew how to worship. And back in those days, we was in a Baptist church. They ain't do that much. You get up, the deacons get up and they do the devotion. And then, we got our protocol as to how we do things. Worship was not really a part of it. Now the choir sang, you might can shout, but ain't nothing about no worship in there. If it's quiet, that's not us, you see?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be my first pursuit in life before I started even my educational pursuit is I was a background singer. A lot of people, many people know that I've sung background for several stars, Israel and New Breed. I was in the Kirk Franklin. I mean, you name it, I've sung with a lot of big names. And one of the things that they did, because I always thought that, oh, well, I can sing for the rest of my life. Y'all doing it, everybody doing it. But then again, life happened, right? And I swallowed a blade that cut the inside of my throat.
Oh God.
And yeah, because I was a bully, I'm a whole bunch of was being.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
And so
Jeez.
I brought that up to say that I was in trouble. So I never told anybody. The school told me if you get in one more fight, we're gonna kick you out of school. They told me that this morning, that morning at 8 o'clock. Well, I had already promised somebody that I was going to get them because they had been bothering me. And
Okay.
I'm a woman of my word, right? So I had no choice but to meet in the restroom and handle on my business. Well, then when my friends, y'all don't know nothing about this, is the old school fighting. My friends came and was like, yo, admin coming, or whatever we used to call them. We ain't gonna say it. And I was like, okay, well, I couldn't do nothing with the blade, so I just threw it in my throat because I saw it on TV and it worked for everybody else. Never thought it ain't gonna work for me, right? So swallow the blade or whatever. Never said anything. I'm sitting there bleeding. I could taste the blood going down. Didn't know, I'm like, oh God, no, I think I'm about to check out of here,
Oh my
And
God.
and so
Ooh.
for the longest time, I never got it taken care of. So now,
But
being a singer, you use your vocal cords and all of this stuff. And so I'm thinking, oh, I'm healed. Jesus healed me. I'm great, right? Well, once you overuse your vocal cords for so long, it began to keloid in my throat. So I was in South Africa. We were doing, many of you may know the CD, the Live in South Africa recording with Israel and New Breed. I was there and I was supposed to sing, but my cord ripped because I never got it taken care of. So I have to come all the way back to America, broke, busted, and disgusted, because you don't get paid if you don't sing. And I was like, I came home, and at that time I was married, and I told my husband, I said, I got to come up with a game plan. I got to come up with a backup plan. This is not enough. I see singing may not be my plot. It may not be the destiny for my life. Even though everybody around me is doing it, I'm making great money. I'm taking care of my family, taking care of my husband, and all of these things. And then that's when I went to college. So if I had to give a word, it would be, I promise you, if you put your plan in God's plan, no matter what you've done, no matter what you've been, if you put your plan in God's plan and take your hands off of it, God, this is what I want. That's what the Bible says. He said, delight yourself in me and I will give you the desires of your heart. Well, I gave God the desires of my heart. And watch this, the desires of my heart never cost a dime. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be at peace. I wanted to be sane, right? I wanted to be able to provide for my children, whatever that looked like. I never even gave God I want to be this. You know,
Right.
some kids, I want to be a firefighter. I never had that. I just wanted to be able to take care of my kids. And so when I did that, and I showed God that I could be faithful despite all of the obstacles that came my way, despite everything that the enemy done, then that's when he was able to open that door and bless me to the point where not only was I able to provide for my children, not only was I able to find peace, watch this, I did not yet have the peace that passeth understanding, because I knew I asked for that peace. So in my mind, in my intelligence, I said, I asked you for peace, God, and you gave it to me. But oh my God, when I got to the point where I experienced peace that passeth understanding, that wasn't until 3 months ago when I started writing this book, Healing Intentionally. Now I'm intentional about my peace. Now I'm intentional about my pursuit. Now I'm intentional about my day-to-day moving and going and shaking. I've raised the children. I've been married. I've done the recording. I've done the books. I've done all of that. God, I'm still looking for my peace.
Yeah.
Because peace comes whether you got money in your pocket or not. Peace comes whether you have a mate or not. Peace comes whether you go home to a house full or whether you're going home alone. Peace is something that you have to partake in with intention. And when you get to that place, then that's when it all makes sense.
And so that place of peace starts with your healing. And healing, especially when you're speaking of spiritual and mental healing versus physical healing. That's something that you have to be intentional about. That's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
And this, there's so much about this story, because the thing that leaps out to me is a scripture that says the steps of a good man are ordered by God. And, I believe that God calls certain people for certain things. And the reason I'm saying that is because there is no way that Jay Bass could be a doctor or a nurse or a mortician or an EMT or any of these people who have to see human condition in those manner, And so when I hear someone swallowing a blade, oh, sweet Jesus. It's just like, God, what was she thinking? And just the thought, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's on in my mind, the spiritual side of that, or the God side of that, is he allowed you to go through that so that he could so order your steps in another direction.
That's right.
And even though I know it was painful, like literally physically painful, but also I'm sure that was a mental pain, just because that's what you were doing to take care of your family. And now this is cut off, and I'm at a crossroad of, where do I go from here? What do I do now? And
Yes.
I'm just imagining this. I see that I'm gonna continue to come back there. I'm seeing this young girl
Mhm.
who's basically doing it on her own. I know
Mhm.
you're saying that you're married, but at the same time, these are a lot of our life decisions. Even when we are with someone,
Yes.
we have to make those decisions on what we believe is best for us,
Yes.
and especially when you're raising a family. And so I'm just trying to imagine you in that season having to come to grips and saluting you again because you were able to come to grips and determine,
Mhm.
okay, since this door has closed, this thing that I was doing has closed, then let me explore different options. And then not only did you explore those options, you pursued those options. And
Mhm.
that is absolutely admirable. And then
Mhm.
now to fast forward years later, decades
Mhm.
later, to
Mhm.
know that you're sitting now with the 7 degrees, you're now sitting with the 40 books,
Mhm.
and so many other things that you've been able to accomplish. I know one of the other things that is new, and I believe you're getting ready to open next week, is the
Mhm.
JGM Educational Consultant
Yeah.
Facilities.
Yes, we actually opened December the 16th. However,
Okay,
the celebration and ribbon cutting, all the formal festivities, if you would,
okay.
will be taking place next Saturday. And it has been an amazing journey. It's a couple of things I want to say. Number one, I want to say, you wearing my alma mater as well.
Okay.
I went to College of the Mainland. That's where I got my two
Really?
associates from. Yes.
Are you serious?
That's where I got
Wow.
my two associates from. Yep.
Now, you know I would
Um,
have no clue about that. Are you serious? Of all
absolutely.
places.
Yes, yes.
Well,
Class of
you know what?
2005.
This was God ordained and I had no clue.
Yes.
I just threw something on.
Uh-huh. Yes,
Oh God,
yes.
but wow. Okay.
Yeah. That
Okay.
that that's one thing I want to tell you. The other thing I want to tell you is and this is a testament and hopefully prayerfully an encouragement to you. I was just listening to you say how, you couldn't be a teacher and you couldn't be a doctor and you couldn't be this because you couldn't see in human form of the vast majority of catastrophes that we see. But I have followed your ministry for many years now, and I know you know this. And in ministry, you deal with those things unaware
That's right.
because in church, we are not taught to talk about it and we're not able to see it. We see it when they're cleaned up and they're smelling good and everything on the outside, but on the
For the
inside,
process.
if you
Yes.
could only see what's
Yeah.
going on the inside, what
Yeah.
brought them to that place
That's
to
right.
make them listen to J Bass original songs that that
Yeah.
that say, wonderful is your name and all of these things. You can't get to that place, and I would just venture to say, we run in some of the same circles, and I have heard some of your music, not only that you have sung, but that others have sung. Maybe not did it as well, but hey, that's not even important. But I wanted to encourage you that you never know why some people are coming to church. Some people are coming to church and they're pushing because they see J Bass pushing
That's true.
and
Yeah.
they know what they went through. And so I never allow anybody around me, especially the greats, to minimize themselves and their contribution, if you would, to the kingdom, because that work is much more important, if you ask me, than any work that we do. So kudos to you for all that you are doing in the body of Christ. Continue to do it. And just know that, the Bible says again, despise not small beginnings.
That's right.
And it's gonna come. It's gonna come.
When you say
Amen.
that, I'm thinking about that your beginnings seemed small, but to see just how far God has brought you, you know what I'm saying? It's it I've been sharing this and it's I'm kind of feeling it in areas of my life, and realizing it more and more that even though we've been through some very, very low moments in our lives, ultimately, and especially being able to take it and grow through it and really use it to fuel us in this journey now, it was worth it. It was worth every tear. It was worth every fight. It was worth every misunderstanding, because in some way we learned something from it so that today we can be better individuals, be better servants for God's will, and even to better understand that one thing I'm learning more and more is that this is God's life. Whatever I'm doing, whatever He allows me to do, even being able to have this interview today, uh, as long as I've waited for this particular show for years, I've had the email jbassadayshow@yahoo.com for over a decade before I even started this on Zoom and YouTube, and I was just waiting on the way to do it. And I don't have the production team. It's just me doing the editing and things. But at the same time, I still had to wait for God's timing to start this show. And I would have never imagined that I would have met Dr. Gilbert and that she would be one of my guests on my show, and that we would have this opportunity. And so I'm looking at that and I'm thinking about you said intentional healing for a purpose, that we're still here today, which means that if it's God's will, we'll be here a few more days, a few more months, a few more years, a few more decades. And if we've come this far, there's no telling what God can use us to do in the coming days and years. And so, as you, I know you're on the precipice of great things in the coming week. You're getting ready to celebrate another birthday. You're getting ready to open up your business, or the official opening. You're releasing a new book, and all of these great things in this one season. Is there something greater that you are looking forward to? What is Oh, this is a good question, Jay Bass. Oh my gosh, I'm ready for this. Okay, now you may not want to share the fullness of this, because I understand some people get to a place where they don't want to share it, but you have accomplished so much, and there's so much that you can attest to. But is there something greater that Dr. Gilbert desires, that it's one of those what we call the God thing, because it's bigger than what you can see, it's bigger than what you can do. Just the property that you attained here recently with your home and the business facility, that's massive. That's dream accomplishing. That's the dream becoming a reality. But I'm asking this because I feel like I know you well enough to know that as much as you've accomplished, that's not it. What is there? Some more?
Yes, to be married.
Oh, okay.
You weren't looking for that one, was
not what I was expecting. Okay.
Okay. I used to hear people say, well, the Bible people say, what does it profit to, for a man to gain the whole wide world and lose their soul? Well, in Jennifer's world, it's, what does it profit a girl to have everything that she wants and needs and nobody to share it with?
Oh, wow.
And because, it's and many people don't think this way, but now that God has done his good work, right?
Okay.
Now comes the responsibility of, God forbid something happens to me.
Okay, I see. Okay.
What happens then?
Wow.
Who will enjoy it then? My kids are grown, gone, and doing their thing. And, I don't know that, that they would take over the business, or I don't know that, and just not even, God forbid, something happens to me as in death, but what if something happens to me in sickness?
Yeah.
there's
Who's there to take care
nobody
of you?
there
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
pick up those pieces, and
Yeah.
and without me losing my independence. My kids always say, Mama, you can always come live with us, which, God, I pray, Jesus, Lord, but
Yeah.
I don't want to lose my independence. I was a cancer survivor, and the whole time that I was fighting cancer and all of that, I was adamant that I have to have my own plot, my own spot. I have to, I have to keep working. I have to keep, at that time I was recording music and I have to keep doing these things because this is what keeps me going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love would keep me going even further, because there's only so much that a person can do by themselves. But when you multiply it with that, when purpose meets destiny, then guess what happens? And so that's my God thing. That's, no rush, but that's my prayer.
I'm trying to imagine what kind of man comes to halfway comes up to the standards of Dr. Gilbert. I'm just, this has become the J Bass dating show. And so we have our candidate today, Dr. Jennifer Gilbert. She's single, she's ready, she's available. And brothers, you need to know that she is looking for you. She's waiting for you to find her. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
And so what is it? What is it? What kind of guy do you think? What does he need to do? What does he need to be to be who you need him to be? What does that look like? You said it, so I'm just trying to help you put it out.
Yeah, no problem. I need him to be him.
Okay.
I need him to be him.
Okay.
Some people be like, some of my friends in the, corporate entrepreneurial world, they'll say, girl, I'm looking for my Stedman now, because that means that you think you Oprah, and we all know we don't want to be Oprah, right? Okay. But I just need him to be him. Most people, some of the can I address some of the common misconceptions that people feel about dating? Especially somebody, if you would, of my caliber, if you would. Is that they feel like, oh, well, I don't have a doctoral degree, so I'll never match up, or, I still work a 9 to 5, so surely she don't want me, or whatever. I will say this, in my younger, and I'll say my younger, dumber days, I have always made more money than my husband. I have never had a corporate America man. The greatest husband, I was married twice. The first husband, he was the father of my children. He was my high school sweetheart. So neither one of us had any expectation nor no clue as to what life was. We just knew we loved each other. We wanted children, or we was gonna run in the sunset and do what we got to do. Right. Okay. We had no aspiration for life. So neither one of us had no money. So we was just doing what we had to do. The second husband, who was the best candidate to raise my children, he worked at Whataburger.
Wow.
For 12 years.
Wow.
And we was right there in Texas City. I bought us a home, and we lived great. He supported me, emotionally, as I was going to college at the mainland, and all of those things. And so I said that to say that in all of my accomplishments, those are, again, my accomplishments. Those were my desires. Those were my feats. Those were my crosses to bear. At this point, at this age of my life, I literally just want someone that I can enjoy my life with. That's going to be honest, that's going to be faithful, that's going to be loyal, that's going to be supportive, that's going to be respectful. Again, I'm, me, I'm not, one of those, what they call them, superficial girls, this, lashes, as you can see, lashes and nails. And I don't need the name brand stuff. I need your name, and I need for your name to matter. Right? Because when we look at the Bible, when we look at the virtuous woman in the Bible, it says that her husband, the people knew her husband. Why? Because of her. But he never had to change who he was for the people to know him. It was all in the way that she carried herself, bearing his name. And that's all I want.
Okay. This is good. That's what I love about this show. Like people ask, the time limit or what are we going to talk about, those kind of things. But I just love a good organic conversation because when
Authentic.
we started talking about you coming on the show, it was about the book, but I knew that this was going to evolve into so much more. And so now we've done love matching and all this love. And I'm hearing some things, and it's just like that is it's really a testament, especially on the thought of finding someone to be with. And there, especially in the day that we live in, there are so many expectations. But when you said just the matter of respect, I often think that if I ever, which is it seemed like it's just Lord Jesus. Anyway, moving on, J Bass. If I ever was to settle down with someone, I would want someone who has dreams and aspirations. And when you said that about Whataburger, it just kind of put a halt in me as I'm thinking about that. That if that person is committed to whatever it is that they're doing, that speaks volumes. That's if it is Whataburger and you're committed to Whataburger and you're showing up and you're doing your part and you're also then in turn showing up at home and doing your part, that's admirable. That's admirable. And so, maybe there are some things that someone can learn from this interview alone, just in that aspect, that if you have someone, especially on the honest aspect. Now, when you said that, I often think nowadays, the statement, you can't handle the truth. People say that but now the difference is, I'm not saying that about you, because with a story like yours, I would hope that you able to handle the truth. Just like with me, knowing what I've come through. And now I'm going to say this because this is just a place where I'm growing in a thought that I'm just having to deal with, as a man, and the things that I've been through with molestation and things like that. It was never by someone who was an adult, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I've always had an attraction to older. And so the thought is, even in that aspect, even though I can't understand a man who is attracted to a child, what, I just don't get it, and one of I can't even tell you what my thing is with that. But anyway, I just don't get it, because I can't say it's the size requirement. I mean, I need somebody I can, you know what I'm saying? That's going
to right.
So, those are things I don't get. I don't get the rapist. I mean, there are too many people who want to give it up freely and willingly. So what is the need? And maybe there are some mindsets that I don't get. I don't have a psychology degree. I don't know these things. But at the same time, I don't have judgment for these people, because, and this is a new season, because you hear so many things growing up in the church. You feel so many things, and this is outcast. This is outcast. But I'm sick of the gossiper. Now, that's who I'm sick of in this season. I'm sick of people who have something to say about others, and they are not doing their work for intentional healing. And so that's something I'm working on now. It's not these horrible things that everybody, the murder and all these people, because some people make you want to. But anyway, I'm having more compassion for those people than us because of that reason. But anyway, I'm thinking about that, and just those who have the human issues that nobody wants to deal with, even the young girl that they call and fast, that they cast aside and just shun, and for all these different reasons. It's a soul that's at stake.
Absolutely.
That keeps that stays at the forefront of my mind, that a lot of times it seems like we're not concerned with the soul of the person. I think
Mhm.
about as many churches as I've served at over the years. Just kind of like your books in so many years.
Mhm.
I've had so many churches in so many
Mhm.
years,
Mhm.
and probably it's definitely more churches than years. And
Mhm.
thinking about sitting in some of those situations where it seemed like all they were concerned about was your talent, your
Mhm.
gift, your
Mhm.
ability, but there was
Yeah.
no real care about your soul. They'll talk about you, they'll dog you up behind your back because of your issues and your
Mhm.
proclivities, but they're
Mhm.
not concerned about the soul and making sure that your soul is being cared
That's
for.
right. That's right. Yeah.
And I don't even know how I got on this trajectory, but what I do feel is that you can understand that line of thought. And
Yeah.
I, maybe now we need to maybe encourage somebody who, first and foremost, would even be willing to listen in the church that is the person who's talking about the young girl who's had the child. Oh, and I
Mhm.
can hear him. I can hear him. She's supposed to be a minister and all this kind of stuff. Because
Mhm.
I've had that said about he's supposed to be a minister. But anyway, they saying these kind of things, but at the core of you, my soul is at stake. I'm struggling, and I'm
Mhm.
struggling even more so to find the help that I need to overcome this, which is
Right.
bringing me back to now the need of intentional healing. Uh,
Mhm.
Now, since we brought it back
Mm.
there,
My
thinking about
God.
all of that, when you consider
Mhm.
your workbook that you put together, when you consider the book that you put together, how can the soul of the man, as they work through this book and really confront all of those lingering issues, because it is hard,
It, it
it
is. It
is
is.
a struggle
Mhm.
when you know that it's already a cloud over me, and I'm
Mhm.
really struggling to deal with all of this stuff that I'm seeing in my own life on a daily
Mhm.
basis.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm going back because the person who is the maybe a child molester or the murderer or the rapist. I'm just trying to name some of the worst ones that
Mhm.
we can think.
Mhm.
These people have souls. Something when they were on the playground as children, none of them said, "I want to be this. I want to be that."
Mhm.
When I grow up, I'm gonna do this to other people, or I'm gonna do that to other people.
Right.
But
Right.
something happened. Something
Mhm.
happened. And when I'm thinking about this, I can hear I'm feeling that on one aspect there are others outside of them are saying they get intentional healing, they get to intentionally heal, but
Mhm.
that's a
Mhm.
soul at stake who needs
Mhm.
intentional healing too.
Mhm.
How can they be
Absolutely.
benefited from your book?
Well, I wanna say this. I like, as I said, I was called to preach at 7. Started preaching when I was 9 in a Baptist church,
Glory.
and this was back in the 70s,
But that's a
and
story in itself too, though. In a
yeah,
Baptist church, oh my
in a
God!
Baptist church. And this was back in the 70s, when it
Wow!
was unheard of for
Right?
a girl to preach, right?
Exactly.
So I remember it like it was yesterday when I went, and I didn't know what was happening to me. My mama thought I was schizophrenic because I kept saying, I keep hearing something, and this is what it's saying. And I wasn't old enough to really know the Bible and things of that nature. But I remember when I went to the preacher and I told the preacher, that this is what's happening, and I know, it came to a point where God had to give me clarity, even as a child, for me to understand what was going on so that I can tell them this is what's happening. So when I went to the preacher and I told him, I said, the Lord told me that I'm supposed to preach, but I don't know what I'm going to preach about. And this is me at 7. I don't know what I'm going to preach about, and I don't know when, but that's just what the Lord told me. And so I remember the looks, because you couldn't meet with the pastor
Right.
without deacons. And
Yeah.
it was like
We.
this whole, what did she just say? Came over
Mhm.
the room.
I'm
And
sure.
so at that point,
Yeah.
and in this, I think this is critical. At that
Yeah.
point, Jay, I didn't want anybody but Jesus.
Okay.
I didn't know
That
anybody
makes a
but Jesus.
yes. Innocence. Innocence.
It
Come
was
on.
the innocence. The Bible
Yes.
says, suffer you come as a child. All I wanted was Jesus. But watch this.
Yeah.
They set me down for 2 years and
Mm-hmm.
told me I couldn't do anything. You just
Wow.
sit right there on the front row and you
Wow.
listen and you watch. Watch this.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
sit on this front row and you
Mm-hmm.
listen and you watch.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't say nothing about Jesus. You can't do nothing. Now you just gonna sit there. And so I did.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was what I was watching.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep.
I'm
Yep.
watching the man, right? I'm watching the men. I'm
Mm-hmm.
watching the women. I'm watching
Uh-huh.
how they interact. Now, mind you, I was a
Uh-huh.
tag kid. That was talented and gifted. I didn't even know what that was. My mama didn't know what that was. I just knew that I went to school. I was bored because I already knew all this stuff. And it's like, really, like, why are we sitting in here? Do we really got to do that? You know? And
Mm-hmm.
so I knew I was wise beyond my years, but I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that looked like. And so
Mm-hmm.
because they shunned me, what I did is I took my focus off of Jesus because you won't let me represent Jesus. And so I decided
So
that I want
watching
to
you.
represent you and I want to
Mm-hmm.
be like you and I want to
Mm-hmm.
do the things that I see you doing. Well, if I
Mm-hmm.
see you sleeping around on your wife and if I see you sleeping around on your husband and if I see you lying and I
Well,
see you backbite, then guess what? I'm going to start
well.
emulating what it is that I see
Mm-hmm.
because you told me to put Jesus on the shelf because I'm not old enough. Come on, Timothy. You despise me because of my age. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I still begin to go in my room and my favorite books, my favorite reads, which is really
Ooh.
crazy. Everybody else is reading Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Jennifer is over here reading the Bible and the dictionary because it had all these words in there that I didn't know what it meant. And nobody that I knew what it meant because nobody was educated. And then they only read or, read from, watch this, the book of man, which is what pastor said in the pulpit. Nobody studied for themselves. Bible study was a kind of unheard of. You went to Sunday school, but that was about it. And you just got the cute little stories, but nobody ever dove into the context of why this said and when the scripture says now faith. Well, what do you mean now? What was it before? Those
Right.
things.
Right.
And so because you told me to put Jesus on the shelf, you told me to sit on this shelf and sit on this step and watch what everybody else does. So then when I become what everybody else is, watch this, my innocence is taken and now I'm raped.
Wow. Wow.
And then as if the rape wasn't bad enough, my mom, I'm gonna just say it, she refused to take me to the hospital because she didn't believe that I was raped.
Wow.
And she
Wow.
had hid me. I was in Europe. She put me in a cellar. Back in Europe, that's where we lived. We were military. And so I was downstairs in the basement because she had a gambling addiction. And I'm saying this because I had the best mother ever. I can say that now because I'm healed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she put me in the cellar because I wasn't able to go to the bingo hall that she was going to, right?
Wow.
And so it was there that I was raped. So I ran upstairs and I told my dad, my stepdad, who just passed. It's about to be a year this week. And he was the one who took me to the hospital. But because it created issues for my mom and my dad as far as their relationship, my mother would make me go and babysit for this family. And so, now I'm not in the cellar anymore. And what happened is then that husband in turn considerably every day that I went over there, he raped me every day, every day, every day, every day. And watch this. What happened then? It manifested into now a sex addiction that I didn't even get diagnosed of until I was way old, right? And so all of this I can say in my head if I wanted to in my mentality that church hurt did that because the church people wouldn't let me be who God called me to be. So I became who they were. And so therefore I had to suffer their consequences because I did what they told me to do. This is what Psyche said, right? And so it was through that I had to, and I even addressed this in the book, what we call church hurt. There's really no such thing. I've never seen a carpet get up and slap nobody. I ain't never seen nobody, trip over a pew. I ain't never seen that. It's not church hurt. It's the inability to embrace the ignorance of the people who just happen to be sitting on the church pew. Yeah. That's what church hurt is. I can't, I used to be so angry with my mom because I was like, she hates me. She hated me. She hated me. The only thing I could do to make her happy was either preach or sing. And that was the only time that she was like, that's my baby, And my dad was, my stepdad was the only one that was there. My dad never really, he's alive and well and never really hear from him. But I had to go in this healing journey, in this book. I had to go in and I had to say, I remember that I saw pictures of my mom, because I have an older brother. My mom used to dress my brother up and put wigs on him because she wanted a little girl so bad. Wow. And when God gave her the little girl, she didn't know what to do with it. Wow. So the best thing that she could do was give me the name Jennifer. Why do I say that? I hated that name for so long because I thought it was a white girl name. Like, wow. I hate Jennifer. Don't call me Jennifer. So I went by my middle name, Lorraine, for the longest time. Now Lorraine is the fighter. Lorraine is the one that swallowed the break. That wasn't Jennifer. That was Lorraine. Okay.
Okay.
So if you ever want to get with it, call Lorraine.
Okay.
But, I remember it was in my early 40s. My godmother, we had reconnected because I had lost, touch with her. And I was like, one of the biggest things I hate about my life is my name. Wow. And she was like, why? And I said, because it's a white people name. And nobody's going to take me serious. I'm a black girl named Jennifer. Like, that's just crazy. You don't even hear it right. I mean, and it's spelled normal. It ain't spelled different like the other people, Mm-hmm. And she said, can I tell you something? And I said, sure. I mean, you going to change my name? And she said, no. She said, your mama gave you that name because she wanted different for you. Wow. I was floored. Like, that's good. What? She was like, yeah. She said, because I asked her why you want to name her that? Everybody, my aunt's name is Berdell, and my mom's name was Aurelia, and her sister's name was Diane and Letha. All these nice ethnic names, and then here comes Jennifer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, I don't want her to go through what I went through. I don't want her to be who I am. This words from my mother. I don't want her to be who I am. So I'm going to name her something different. And I pray she lives up to the name. She said that's a direct quote from my mother that I never knew until I was in my early 40s. And it changed my perception of who I am. It changed how I thought about my mother. It changed just the whole trajectory of my life. Because I know now that I have lived up to my mother's expectations, whether she's here to say it or not. I lived up to the hopes that she had for me, that I would do different, that I would be different, and that I would want different. Mm-hmm. And in my healing journey, it came from me, not just learning and knowing and remembering what happened to me, but remembering the people who did it. Yeah. I couldn't, my mother never went to college. So I couldn't expect my mom to know that I'm this little brilliant little girl because she was barely at a high school graduation. I mean, at a high school education. So how can she tell me to be better when that's all she knew? That's right. Mm-hmm. She was one of 6 girls, and each of the girls had their own thing that they did. So there was one of them that did everybody's hair. My mama was the one that cleaned everybody's house. There was the other one that made everybody clothes. There was the one that cooked. Everybody had their job. And her job was just to clean. Mm-hmm. And I took that from her because now I'm that clean freak at the house. And it's like, so I say that to encourage anybody, again, to just know that it's not what happened to you at this point in life. It's not even how it happened. It's not even, when it happened, where it happened, all that. No, it's understanding the people who were involved in the situation. Because when you put the humanity back into it, it makes life worth living. That's right. It makes the understanding of those issues more bearable.
That's right.
Even now, when we look in the church and you got all these people running around talking about, oh, TD Jakes this and Cat Williams this and that. And one thing that I remember Bishop Jakes said a long time ago, he said, small-minded people talk about other people, but you never hear rich people talking about other people. Okay. They don't care because they trying to secure their bag.
That's right. That's right.
And until we get to the point that we don't care, I don't care who you sleeping with. Mm-hmm. I just want to make it to heaven.
Yeah.
I don't care who you booing and fooing and do. I just want to get to heaven. And if it takes a homosexual to come and to drop a seed into me and be like, oh, good God, I never thought about it that way. Guess what? Thank you for being used of the Lord. Because if he can use an ass, he can use the homosexual. If he can use an ass, he can use a rapist. If he can use an ass, he can use a murderer. He can use anybody that he wants to if you make yourself available. Wow. And when we get to that place, that's when healing happens. Mm-hmm. When it's just like, God, whoever it is that you have me to encounter today, just let them be used of you. And watch this, you'll stop running behind these false prophecies. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give you a quick testimony. Last year, I was engaged to be married. Wow. A lot of people don't know this. Wow. My daughter had left in 20, well, this is 24, in 22. My daughter left and I was devastated. I'm sorry, in 21, my daughter left. I was devastated. She took my grandson and everything. I just thought our life was over, right? And so, as in fine Jennifer fashion, I started the publishing company. I published 14 books in that 1 year. And I did all this. I threw myself into the work. And then the Lord told me to start writing stage plays. So I did that and all of this stuff. And I did all of these things to keep myself busy. And I went to this church and this pastor told me, he said, oh, I see the Lord. I see the Lord on you. And I see he's going to give you everything new. I see new love. I see this. And you ain't going to be single for long. And all of this, greatness that these pastors try to give you. Right. And so when it was all said and done, this guy that I had been talking to, we wasn't even dating. This is how crazy I was. Wasn't even dating, came and proposed to me. And because he did it in front of a whole bunch of people and I didn't want to embarrass him, watch this, I didn't want to embarrass him, I said yes. And so I was like, well, I don't believe in Shaq and I don't believe in, all these things I don't believe in. And so we decided we're going to go ahead and get married. I moved in with this guy, never moved in with anybody before in my life. This man held me hostage. He would not feed me. We were talking about 1 year ago. Look at what the Lord can do 1 year ago. And then I come to find out that while I'm on the road touring and doing all this other stuff, he's out here sleeping with prostitutes. When I find out, I immediately called off the wedding. And all of this, and then the abuse got even uglier. Now watch this. Here I am, an advocate for, women, leave it. I'm doing just a year prior to that. You were there at the ball. Get there, and I'm sitting. I couldn't take my own advice. Wow. And let me tell you what freed me from that. In a matter of 7 days, I called off my engagement on the 28th of December. I get word that my favorite cousin dies the 31st of December. I get another word on the 1st of January that my father, who raised me, is now on hospice. My birthday is the 11th, his is the 13th. I began to pray. I was like, God, okay, what do? I don't know. I mean, I'm in this man won't even let me leave the house. He took all my money. I have no money. I have no this. I have no that. This is 1 year ago, J-Bass, 1 year ago. Come on, look at what God can do. And so I'm sitting here and I'm saying, what do I do? What do I do? And God said, just watch me work. And I was like, watch you work? You allowing all this stuff to happen. How can I love you? How can I serve you when you allowing all this stuff to happen? Because it says that nothing happens unless you give it permission. So you gave it permission. And this is the rant that I went on with the Lord. Can I just be honest? And so when I did this and so I said, okay, do I go now? And I told the man who was abusing me, who had taken all of my money. And I said, okay, this is what's happening. My cousin just died. Now my dad is on hospice. They don't expect him to live. I'm talking to him every day on the phone, and yet I can't get to him because he's in Georgia. He says, I'll loan you. This is what the man said. He said, I'll loan you $300 of my own money. I'll loan you $300 and I want you to go and take care of your dad. Well, before I could even get there, my dad passes. He died the day before my birthday. So what I did is I reached out to my friends and I said, hey, instead of giving me gifts and taking me to lunch or whatever, I have to get home to my dad because he just passed. And I said, so just send me whatever you can in my Cash App. Oof. I'm so sorry.
Man.
I've never talked about this before. So I get in my car by myself and I drive to Georgia. Get to Georgia and my stepmom says, your dad wanted to die in your room, so that's where he died at. I couldn't even get out the car to go into the house. Stayed with my mom's best friend. And I kept saying, I sat there and that's a 15-hour drive to Georgia, and I'm crying and I'm saying, God, you got to do something. Now, I done served you my entire life. I gave my life to you. I chose not to be angry with you when I went through these things. I chose not to be bitter. I chose to still serve you. I chose to write about you. I chose to preach about you. I chose to teach about you. I did all of these things, God. So why are you allowing me to go through this? This is too much. Even for the strongest of this is too much. Now I got to go back. Watch this. I got to go back from where I came from and watch this man be buried. The only man that ever gave me life, the only man that ever told me he believed in me when nobody else did. The only man that came to my high school graduation when my own father, who knew I had just buried my mother 3 months earlier, didn't come. You want me to worship you, you want me to praise you, you're gonna have to do something. And I felt a break. It was a break like I had never experienced before in my life. I went and I buried my father, came back. A week later, I buried my cousin. And a week later, I moved back into my apartment that I had left when old dude did all of this stuff to me. And I was able to close that chapter. But watch this, I was still not able to be comfortable because home didn't feel like home, and nothing felt, I didn't like my job. I had been on my job over 10 years. I didn't even like my job anymore. And then that's when I got on the internet and I was like, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's time for me to go. It's time for me to move. I'm tired of being there for everybody else. And I'm tired. And so I got a call back for an interview, did the interview, got the job the same day in Livingston, Texas. I didn't even know what Livingston was. Okay. The lady hired me. And I was like, okay, I guess I might need to be trying to find some place to live. God blessed me with a house on the lake. I was able to get the house on the lake. And here I am 1 year later. God has blessed me to open my own facility. J. Gilbert Ministries has been around forever. JGM Educational Consultants has been around forever, but I've never had my own building. I've always did it out of my house. And so to see where God can bring me in 1 year, if that's not encouragement enough to say that whatever it is that you went through, the rape, when you sat there and said, it's all worth it, now I can sit back in this office.
Yeah.
And say, you know what? It was all worth it. Those tears, it was all worth it. I thank God that people are in awe of my accomplishments as far as the books and the CDs and the music career and all of these other things. But you know what? I sit back and I bask in my peace.
Yes.
Because that's what I asked God for. And because I chose to still delight myself in him, despite everything that I went through, now I can sit back and eat, watch this, of the fat of the lamb. And that lamb is my peace. And I can appreciate it. And then on top of that, he was able to heal me from the inside out. So when you see me crying this morning, I was laughing on my last interview. I said, I've been to 4 countries today. Four. I was in Africa this morning. I was in Australia. I was in China. And then I went to Canada. You know, it's like, whatever. I said, so I'm on the move today. And they was like, how you do that? I was like, via the internet. Touring is a wonderful thing. You know? So, but I
Yes.
thank God for that. I thank God for that peace. And so it literally was in the middle of my touring this morning. I literally just sat and I just began to weep. And for the first time, it was not tears of sorrow. It's tears of God. I'm just so grateful. God, I'm so thankful because you could have did this for anybody else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if being held hostage, if being talked to crazy, if having to start literally from 50 cents to come on up to $5, it's all worth it. And I thank you for it. So now I look at obstacles and things, I look at them completely different because I know that this is a God thing. This is a God thing. He opened this business. I had not a dime.
Wow.
When I went to get the building, the woman never, I mean, I have good credit. The woman never ran my credit check. She just said, what you gonna do with the building? And I told her, and she was like, oh, thank good Lord, because we sure need that here.
Wow. 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 Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's all worth it.
You have, I mean, I was sitting here thinking, I'm gonna have to come back through this so that we can do another interview.
Okay.
And listen back to all the things that are leaping out at me because this has been the kind of interview that you know what, I'll go as far as to say this is an answered prayer. This is probably like the second or third interview. No, I've done some pretty good interviews that they're answered prayers because it really takes a deeper look into the human experience and why and how we can be encouraged to encourage. The fact that you have been able to again overcome so much and hearing the learning and the teaching that God was doing through the process, the learning that you were receiving and the teaching that God was doing, and again, how it all has been worth it. This is, you know, between, you know, we did my book years ago. And so in between that time to hear that you've gone through such a tragedy, you know, that and even in the thought of we've done the love matching part of a segment of this broadcast. And to know that even after that you're still open and receptive to love. That speaks volumes to me because a lot of times our human proclivity is once something like that happens, I'm shutting down, I'm shutting out. I'm no longer open for business. I'm no longer open for even the possibility of someone, because the truth is, once your trust has been forsaken and you don't know who and how you can trust, that is a hard place to recover from. And so what I'm feeling now, because we know that the book Intentionally Healing is the overarching theme of today's broadcast. What it sounds like to me, that this book was birthed first and foremost from a need to heal, but also because you have been doing and have done the work to intentionally heal, which brings you to the place of this peace that you keep speaking about it. And I've said this so many times this year or in 2023 that I just, if only God knows how many times I talked about peace and the need for peace and the desire for peace. It's so much that you have said. It is so much that you have said that I want to really go back through this broadcast and take my own notes. I don't take notes while we're talking because I want to give you my full of undivided attention, but I need to come back through and take notes so that in our next interview, do you notice I've said that twice? Now I'm gonna say it again so that I want to have you on the show again. In fact, In fact, one of my desires to do, especially in the month of February and considering Black History, because while others may not see this, what I'm seeing and even saying the words Black History is that you, Dr. Gilbert, are the epitome of Black history, Black excellence, and Black achievement. And there are a few people that I want to have, but the reason is not necessarily about Black history, but it's about the realness of our stories and the willingness. That's one of the things that I've admired about you and some of your books that I've read is that you're transparent, just as you know I am, about your life story and the realities of life. That's why it's hard for me to accept those who judge others and gossip about others. But at the same time, I do recognize that's a human proclivity. That's just a human thing. And if they don't have anything else going on, that's their thing. And so that's what I'm learning to accept. But anyway, I said that again. Anyway, I'm telling you that I'm really dealing with that. But when I consider all of this, it's the fact that you're overcoming. You're overcoming, and I would love to get you on a panel with some others who have this overcomer's testimony, because we've all been through some things, but not everybody is willing to share it. Not everybody is able, after you've been through it, to turn it and figure out what was the good, what was the benefit from me having this type of experience. And I honor God because, it really could have been the other way with either one of us, that we could be stuck in the things that we've been through. There's so many people who are stuck. They're stuck in that place of unforgiveness that you mentioned. They're stuck in the place of hatred, which either is hatred for someone else or self-hatred. And so I could go on and on, because you have stirred me up today with this interview. And so thank you so much, Dr. Gilbert, for being my guest.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being willing to share. Thank you for enduring the things in your life that I know and just hearing could have been so detrimental, but somehow you were able to turn that pressure into diamonds. What a testament, what a testimony. And so as we close out, let's just have one more word from you of encouragement for somebody else who will see this and say, man, I've listened to her testimony. I want to know, and let's do this too. I want to know how I can reach her, how I can support her, how I can get all 40 of those books and to be a support to her ministry. Find out more about JGM Educational Consulting and more. Just find out more about you and what they can do to pursue their dreams and their goals.
Amen. Thank you again. It's so much that you said. And I will say this, I know that you heard from the Lord, because you are the second person who told me today that I am their Black history.
Yeah. Wow. 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 What a testament. That is a powerful testament. I mean, really, really, really. And you cannot overcome what you've been through and not be the epitome of Black history. People have, when you look at the life of everybody that we consider Black history, we see the outset of it. But those people were in the trenches going through some very heavy, some very weighty life struggles. And the thing is, they survived it. They took it and they made the best of it. And because of that, many other lives have been blessed and impacted, and such is your life.
Thank you. We are working on the website. It's actually being restructured. It's supposed to come up today. It should be jgilbertministries.com. You can learn all things JGM, jgilbertministries.com. It'll have the store in there for all of the books, the publishing company, the educational consultation company. It'll have a bio, where actually they're trying to talk me into a podcast. I'm saying, if and I've said this before, you find the time, I'll figure it out, but I'm not there yet. But we are going to be doing some ministry things that will be available online as well. So that would be the way to get in touch with me. We're still booking for the tour. Of course, we're always open for conferences and things of that nature. But if I had to give one word to anybody that's going through, that word would be faithfulness. One song I've been singing all day is "Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness, morning by morning, new mercy I see." That's been my song all day. And when we think faithfulness, we always think of God's faithfulness to us. But I want to challenge you to stay faithful to God.
Yes. Okay, good. Good. Yes.
Morning by morning. If you messed up today, guess what? You got another chance to get it right. Yeah. If you just remain faithful. And that's my word for today.
You know, I'm trying to let us go. I've been trying to be respectful of your time, but
Yes,
see, you
bye.
keep on doing stuff, and this is one of the things, and saying stuff, should I say, that just sends me on a trajectory. But I knew it was something that hit my spirit to talk about, and God allowed you to say that to bring it back, because I'm sure you've heard this too. You don't question God. We've heard that so many times, but life can be questionable. And my conviction is that who else am I going to ask? Who, if I don't understand, and I can tell the people I'm surrounded by don't understand and don't have the answer for me. If God is God, why can't I ask him the questions that I need to ask to get the answer that I'm searching for?
That part, yes.
And, you know, even in that, thinking about asking God questions and this journey with him, it's not easy. And I'm sure that you can attest to that many times, especially considering the level of things that we've had to endure over the course of our lives, our faith has been challenged greatly. You just said to be faithful, but how can I be faithful when I'm trying to believe that the God I'm hearing about would allow me to go through something like this and then another something like this until my list is so jacked up that I'm like, okay, surely this ain't the God I've been hearing about. Surely this isn't the God I've read about. But then the truth is, even in the word, you know, we look at the good scriptures, like I can do all things through Christ, and all things work together, and all of these cast your cares upon the Lord, for he cares for you, and the Lord is my shepherd. You know, all that is good and those are so amazing, but we don't look at the hardship that part of his bringing the children of Israel to the promise was to endure the 400 years in Egypt.
Yes.
That you've got to go through that and get to a place where you have to cry out to me in order for me to deliver you. And then once I bring you out of there, because you have this slavery mindset and mentality, I've got to allow you to go through the wilderness for 40 years.
Yes.
And then when you get to the land that I promised you, now you got to fight for it. Just attaining it is not going to be easy. There are, and even in a situation where you don't right out have to fight, you're going to have to walk around the wall 7 days looking crazy. You know, and that process is what many of us get caught up in. And I'm speaking from my own convictions that as a minister of music and all, you know, both of us can say we have multiple things on our list that we've done. You can't box me in as an author. You cannot box me in as a musician or a singer. God has made me multi-talented and gifted, as you said. And so, you know, going to pursue all of the interests that come along with those talents and gifts, a lot of times is met with adversity that many of us, first and foremost, I think it's the ignorance, because we don't know that this comes with that. This burden comes along with that blessing. You know, my favorite example about that is a car. As many times as I've had to catch a ride or ride the bus or walk, I'm praying for a car. But then once I get that car, now I anticipate the car note, but what you gonna do about gas? What are you gonna do about the oil change? What are you gonna do when you need new tires? That's a whole nother thing. You thinking about this, but you didn't consider that. And that's a lot of times what we go through in life, and our relationship with God is not understanding that you can have a Job experience. I know I'm going on. I said I'm trying to be respectful of your time, but see, you did this to me. I'm just telling you, I'm telling you that, I know what I know. I can say I feel like, but I feel like I know that you can identify with that in your walk with God, and especially I'm shining light on that because your challenge of encouragement, I feel that was a challenging encouragement, is to remain faithful. And someone who hears that, who has been through what we've been through, and who has had their faith tested, is like you challenging me to be faithful to a God that I'm beginning to question, because I'm going through all this hell, I'm going through all of this pain, and to be quite honest, I'm sick of it. That's exactly how I feel. And you know, I really like to share the feeling of how I felt, and it's like, to hell with all of this. And then if you want to take it to the hardcore, it's the F with 3 more letters after all of this.
Right.
I can't take no more of this.
Right.
And so then you say these things and you feel this way, and then somebody comes along to tell you to remain faithful to God. And I'm in a whirlwind right now. You know, I honor God, that is not my testimony, but I feel like I'm taking back on where I was when I was. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I'm feeling that person now. I feel like committing suicide. I don't see a way out of all of this. And Dr. Gilbert is going to have the audacity to tell me to remain faithful. I don't even feel like being here, and you're telling me to be faithful. You're encouraging me to be faithful. And my thought in sharing all that and bringing that to light is the first and foremost, why we can trust God and the benefits of being able to trust God. Because the first thing on that trajectory is God is going to be God, period, and point blank. And if we will only trust him and give him the time to show us, you know, we talked about it being worth it, then we can come to this side of the situation, come through the test, come through the valley, and see on the other side how and why it was worth it. But if you give up in the middle of it, if you refuse to take the encouragement that Dr. Gilbert just offered all of us in remaining faithful, because even when we didn't understand, you know, we were still serving in the church. We were still going. We were still hearing God unctioning us to write the book, to write the song, to do this and that, and which was part of our remaining faithful. God, I'm not feeling what you got, what you're allowing. You shared this, what you are allowing in my life. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. But I also am grateful that you're using me to write this song. I am grateful that you're using me to write. And this book, this song is helping me through this feeling that I'm having with you. And so I don't know why, but I'm asking you to help me understand why this is happening. And so your encouragement came from this side of it. And I just dumped a lot on you. But what, I get why you said remain faithful, because even as I shared, just being on this show today, having you as a guest today, and being able to have this level of conversation in my book is an answered prayer. And it shows me why a lot of the things that we've been through to get to this moment were worth it. But somebody is really struggling to say, okay, now I know I get you saying be faithful, but I'm struggling to trust this God that you're telling me to be faithful to.
Yeah.
What would you say to them as why should they be faithful? What is the benefit of being faithful? I mean, I feel like we've already talked about it, but there's something that they can understand greater than that.
I want to, as you said, I'm very transparent, and I wish that I could say that this, this book came just poof. I woke up one morning and I ate some oatmeal and oh my God, it was there. No, before the if you want to say the pimple popper of my healing or my pursuit to healing was I received an email from my children, my daughter actually, in the middle of the night. And it was telling me about how, I was never there, and how you left our dad, which is my second husband, which is a stepdad. But they even went as far as to say, you left our stepdad, and we went from a 2-parent home and a big old house, and we all had our own rooms, and da 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 da, and then we go to this 1-bedroom apartment, and da da, I mean, they let me have it. You hear me? And I immediately, the mother in me was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I did the best I could. I didn't know how. I just, and it was like the pimple popped and the pus, watch this, the pus of my past came out. And it came out so in a manner that angered me. And I wasn't angry at my kids, but I was angry at the devil because I allowed him to make me feel like I wasn't a good mother. I was angry with him because my children allowed him to use them to do this, but it was for a greater good. And I was so angry that I got up I rose up out the bed after getting this email. And after I had already sent my letter of apology, right? And then I circled back. It was a quickening in my spirit. And I said, let me tell you something. What I'm not going to do is apologize, because I did the best that my 16 and my 18-year-old self knew how. I'm not going to apologize because not once have you been without food. Not once have you been without. It was like I had to change my mindset. But in the process of that, after I sent that email, in the process of that, I had to go to work, and I had to deal with other people's children, and I had to deal with administrators and all of the cares that a job brings. And I went in and I sat in my principal's office. I literally posted on Facebook that morning, I was ready to kill myself. This is in my nice little beautiful home on the lake, and wasn't thinking about no business at the time, but it was like the Lord was telling me, but I was like, no, how you gonna tell me that? And my daughter just told me I wasn't a good mom, all of these things. So I'm sitting there and I couldn't hold back tears. I'm standing there and I'm trying to teach the children. Okay, so the main idea is what now? I did all, and then my assistant principal came into my classroom that morning, and she said, I just want to hug you, and I just want you to know I love you, and I want you to know that I'm here. And then I have to meet with my principal, and then I go to my principal's office, and I broke down crying. Like, it wasn't no cute cry. It was to the point where she was like, we can reschedule this meeting, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
I went through all of that. And why did I share that? I went through that because that was just 3 months ago. And then that's when the Lord said, okay, now, right there, now that you have allowed that pimple to pop, and now that you have allowed the pus of your past to ooze out, your cup is empty. Now I can fill it up.
Wow.
And until we understand that there is no way that God can fill your cup if it's already full of your human emotion.
Wow.
There's no way that God can fill your cup if it's already full of your unforgiveness and of your ill feelings and of your bitterness and all of your hatred. God can't do nothing with that cup.
Wow.
And only thing that the enemy is going to do is put a top on it. You ever been to Starbucks and you get the top? They don't give you a straw. They give you a nice little pretty top at the top. They got the little hole in it and you just drink from that. And you don't never make a mess, all of that. But what happens is we get stuck in the Starbucks cup. And every time something happens to us, we take a little sip from the pretty cup. And we're never healed. But until we take that top off and pour out everything that we're going through, everything that we've been through, and you say, okay, God, you know what? Empty this cup. And I'm not going to refill it because I don't know clearly what to put in there.
But yeah.
I don't know what to put in there.
I don't know. I do not know, God.
So since I've been filling my cup, my own cup for the longest, can you empty this cup out for me? And can you refill it with everything, only the things that's necessary for me to have to fulfill this life that you've given to me? Can you do that for me, God? If you're going to question him, why not question him with intention?
That's right.
Question him with intention that I want to be better, that I'm tired of this.
That's it.
I'm tired of every year, I'm tired of making this New Year's resolution that really turns out to be a New Year's lie.
Right.
I'm just resurrecting the lie that I told last year. I've been saying for 15, 20 years, I'm going to lose weight. It ain't never happened. So I just stopped. Okay, God, you know what? Empty this cup. If you want me to have vegetables, put it in there. If not, I'm going to keep eating my steak. Right.
Okay.
But we gotta get to that point. And so for that person that's ready to give up, and so for that person that's ready to throw in that towel, for that person that says, I can't believe, Jennifer, I've been believing forever. I've been believing, and I've been believing. I've been praying, and I've been fasting, and I've been going to church, and I've been tithing. I've been doing the good Christian thing. That might be true. But is that what God has called you to do? You could have been tithing, but if you tithe into the wrong place, you're still broke.
Wow.
You could have been singing, but if you're singing on the wrong note to the wrong tune for the wrong people and for the wrong reasons, you still just sitting there. And what does Corinthians say? It's a sounding brass and a tingling cymbal. It means nothing because you have no love, not only for yourself, but for God.
Wow.
I mean, true love. I mean, that love that says, you know what? Oh, I want to punch you in your throat, but I still love you though. Yeah. Because I know you got my back. I know you got something better. So if I had to give you one thing, I would say empty out that cup and allow God. Don't let the enemy to put a top on it. Even if it get half full, if it's going to spill, let it spill with purpose. Let it spill with intention. Matter of fact, don't let it spill, just pour it out.
Okay.
And start all over.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking that when you said as far as God emptying you out, that sometimes we don't like that process of being empty. But then you also said if you've been believing and fasting and all these things, and my thought was keep fasting, keep believing, keep praying, because it brings back the word that was brought up earlier, trust. Right. I can be faithful when I trust that even though I'm in this, even though I've received this letter from my child and it's affecting me in this way, I trust you that even this has happened for something greater than what I understand, and that it will indeed, first and foremost, pass, and that it will be worth it. Something beneficial, something good will come out of this.
Gotcha.
And to know that that's part of the birthing place for this book. You know, everything, our overarching thing for this segment is the book. And that out of that flows the idea, the teaching of intentional healing. God bless you, Dr. Gilbert. God bless you. This has absolutely and without question been an amazing show. I'm trying to figure out whether I think I'm going to have to really cut this into 2 segments. So just stay tuned. I will definitely keep you posted. But this has been a blessing to me. There have been so many things that you've shared that it's like, God, this is confirmation that we're on the right path. And so God bless you, and just stay tuned because we'll have you back.
All right. Thank you. I'll be looking forward.
It's the J Bass Today Show. Now I'm telling you that it's your attitude. I have an attitude.